There are a handful of songs that define the era in which I grew up at least to me, right? Montel Jordan's This Is How We Do It, anything in Sync or Boys to Men, probably some Britney Spears in there. But there's also a song by the Red Hot Chili Peppers in 1992 called Under the Bridge. The song is depressing, but it's also one of these songs, like any Green Day song, that you just sort of learn the words. You memorize them, you sing them when you hear certain words that associate with them. Read the beginning. Sometimes I feel like I don't have a partner. Sometimes I feel like my only friend. Should I sing it? Nah. It's the city I live in, the city of angels. Lonely as I am, together we cry. I drive on her streets because she's my companion. I walk through her hills because she knows who I am. She sees my good deeds and she kisses me windy. I never worry. Now that is a lie. The song was written when he was at an intense loneliness of his life. This week is Parashat Tazria Metzora, which I had to go look up, honestly. We haven't been in shul in a little while. And I went back and remembered that this is a complicated parsha, one of deep concern for what is actually going on, one that many of us actually could never relate to. Leprosy. What does that even mean to us? There's a verse that at the crux of this parsha might be the most complicated. V'habeged ki hayabo nega sa'ara'at bebeged tzemer or bebeged pishtim. All the days the lesion is upon him, he shall remain unclean. He is unclean. He shall dwell isolated. His dwelling shall be outside the camp. Now, this is a loose translation, not in love with it, but I'm going to use it because the point is a person gets this leprosy, get this infection, and we send them out. This is not a stretch for us today. We are watching this. Before our very eyes, Tazria, Metzora is sort of emerging in our lives. People are being quarantined. They are being isolated. They are being removed. There is stigma attached to it. The Kohanim, or in this case doctors, have to check them. And it is so rampant that we're all affected. Sforno, an Italian commentator, my favorite for those of you who study with me, writes, in truth, the Torah is attesting that at times this phenomenon will occur in garments and in house so as to awaken the ear of the owners to their transgressions. Sforno is right. Not in the radical way we're going to define transgressions here. But it is important that we use this time in which a virus is running rampant to awaken ourselves, not to transgressions, but to the idea that others in the world matter as much as we do to ourselves. After all, putting someone in quarantine is not about the ill. Those who are ill, they're probably better off with doctors, with spirits around them to take care of them, with chicken soup or however they're going to get better. Quarantining someone is about others who may get ill. Even in our worst, in our illness, in our pain, we're taught to care about the other. We are all, in some way or another, experiencing the loneliness. The Red Hot Chili Pepper song rings true, right? Like my only friend is the city I live in. How many of us have looked at our city as a friend? Like, walking down the street, looking at things as if they're empty, and maybe we could fill them, we could help them, we could be a part of them once again. I drive on her streets because she's my companion. How many of us have taken a drive as a way to connect to the world, to get outside the house, to stop the screaming kids for a moment, or get out of our own pajamas? I put on a belt today. That was an achievement. The streets have absolutely become a companion. And we're all going through this. There is no one who is not being impacted by this. And almost everywhere in the entire world, and at all different levels. Some of us have lost family or have dear friends or family who are sick at the moment. Others have lost jobs. Many of us have just lost a sense of self, of purpose, of why we got up every morning, and not just for our families, but for our own personal, not just satisfaction, but worth and well-being and purpose. And what I'm asking today, during this sermon, is like the purpose of quarantining and what we hear in this song and what we learn from Tazria and Metzora is to completely remove ourselves from the situation. Not physically, mentally. And that situation is self. To forget about our own needs or how we or you will get through this, but how we will get through this. I'm watching some many miracles, people who are really stepping up. Our healthcare providers, our essential workers. Locally, there's an organization called Midwest Mask Makers by a friend of mine, Michaela, who has been promoting this and making these masks. And what an amazing, selfless act. And you don't just have to make masks. I'm asking for a mindset to understand what it means to stay home. It is not an imposition on you. It is an opportunity to help everyone around you. Yesterday, I was at Mini Target doing an essential run for groceries, and I understood that every single person in that store saw what was happening and was interacting with what was happening differently. There were many high school, maybe college age, no gloves, no mask. I had 2 masks on, I had my gloves, I ran through, got what I needed, and they were loitering. And it was like I was living on a different planet. But it is not about me, it is about we. It is not about who you are listening to or who you are believing. There are experts on this, medical experts, who are telling us exactly what to do. And ideally and hopefully, our politicians are listening to them. This is not a time to just do what you want to do. This is a time in which we can erase the selfless needs of individuals. We can erase the political disparities of our people and understand we are all human beings together. Do, for once, what others are asking you to do. To ignore your self-interest for just a moment. And that's hard. It's hard on all of us. It's hard on me. It's hard on my family. It's hard on my extended family and friends. All of us. There is not a person who has not been afflicted or affected or impacted by COVID-19. But it is our obligation to quarantine our own self-interest for the betterment of all. The song, Under the Bridge, continues, I don't ever want to feel like I did that day. I don't ever want to feel like this again. I can't imagine there is another person on this world who disagrees with that statement. That we would want to go through this again. We don't. And in order to do that, we must very much not just think of what we want, but what will help the person next to us. Shabbat Shalom.